Hi, and welcome back. Today we're going to go over creating and managing lists. Now, a SharePoint list can be a simple list just like this, like an Excel spreadsheet. And frankly, if you're still using Excel spreadsheets, this will be a great video for you because lists will add a lot more functionality to that spreadsheet. And then we're going to walk through in this document here, exploring hints for Power Automate and Power Apps. And we'll look through this book that you can purchase on Gumroad. But here we'll look through these technical screens as well, kind of walk through it together. So stay tuned. We're going to jump right to it. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to build a list, and a list can just be a simple collection of information that you need to manage anything within your environment. Again, if you're using Excel spreadsheets to do this, it is the harder way to go about it. Now I've got Excel spreadsheets sitting all over my environment. I need to know exactly where they are, what's in them. It just becomes messy quick. So using a list will not only enable you to kind of get rid of those spreadsheets, but it'll give you a centralized area where you can manage the access, share with others easily, and probably more important, create Power Apps on top of those lists so that you can visualize the data in a predictable, repeatable manner and have input and management of that data in a predictable and repeatable manner. If you've ever dealt with large spreadsheets, it's a pain to go through and modify each cell. Here within a list, we can automate that directly into a Power App and automate that pretty easily. So let's go ahead and take a look and start at the beginning. So here again, this book right here, this book series right here, called Making Complex Simple Step-by-Step Visual Guides is available, and it's available right here as an address, these step-by-step guides. So you can go out to lushjeffrey.gumroad.com and purchase them. Most of the books are less than $5. The advantage of having the book is you can use it as a reference. It's a PDF file. You can use it as a reference file, and it's very visually oriented, as you're going to see. Okay, and it has links to YouTube videos throughout it, for example, here on different concepts that we find within each one of the topic areas. So let's go ahead and jump into creating a list. The first thing we want to do is create a list inside of lists. So remember that when you're creating a list inside of SharePoint, you really have two options here. You could go to SharePoint itself. Actually, there's more than two, but you can go to SharePoint itself, or you can go to lists. So let's just go ahead and go to lists, and you can see I have several of them as favorites, and then you can see some examples that I've been playing with for these videos. So let's go ahead and just create a new list. Now here within the document, we break down all three options. The first option is to create a list from a blank list, and then you'll see how to move data around, how to back up data in this video if you have an existing list. But here, remember, the key thing is that we're going to pull just the framework of that list. We're not going to pull the data. Okay, so this becomes important. So let's go ahead and just do this. From a blank list, here we can just create it, and we're just going to say ABC right there. Now we can give it a description, and we can do this stuff. That's fine. But here's what most of the time most people forget. Save my list to where? So you can save it to any one of your, and I'll use quote unquote, teams. But the word teams and SharePoint sites somewhat mean the same thing. But what's the advantage of moving that list into a team? Well, if I already have pre-established rights, for example, if company X right here has a certain number of users that I've already predetermined will have information, all of the information I'm creating, I would create the list right here. Then I don't have to worry about sharing it later because it's already being shared because all those Company X users are sharing the same space, site/team. All right, so I can create it anywhere that I want. In this example, I'm going to create it under Poem. Okay, and then I want it to show in navigation. Now I could choose not to have it show, but usually the default, and I just hit create. So ABC is what we're looking for. So here, I'm just creating, this is a blank list. All right, so a blank list, ABC. Notice here, Poem is the name of the list site or team, and then this is the name of the list itself. We have no data within the list, so we're good to go. So we created a blank list. Congratulations. So it's really literally that easy. So then we start adding data, and you'll notice down here we get into one of the sections here. Right here is managing the list. So if you created a blank list, just pop down to page 12 here where you're going to manage the list. That's where you're going to add your columns and things like that. So let's go back to from an existing list. So that was easy, right? Let's go back to lists. We can click on that guy right there. Go to list again, and we're going to say from an existing list this time. And let's just name this one DEF, but first of all, now we're presented with the team or the site. Now in the document here, select from an existing list. We're right here. So we're going to select from one of these teams. Now notice my list has 3. Here I have 4, right? So you can see I have different lists, right, in different areas or teams. Some of them I don't have any, right? And some of them I have a lot. So, and ABC, there's our ABC list that we just created. And then this is a list I created just a minute ago. Let's use this list as our list that we're going to use. We're going to create it, though, in the Poem area. We're going to create it from this list. So remember, we're selecting an existing list. Okay, we're going to hit next. Now it's going to ask the name, and we're going to say new second list. Okay, and then again, it's going to ask us where do we want to put that list. Now we're going to put it under Company X just to mix it up a little bit. So we're going to say we're going to put it under Company X. So hopefully we won't forget where we put it. But here we're going to hit create, and what it's going to do now is it's going to look at the content of that list, and it's going to create that list, and we're going to see it come up with these fields right here. So let's go over there, and sure enough, there it is right there, department, request, description. Notice there's no data, and notice here that it's inside of this team or site, and then this is the name of the list. So congratulations, you've created one. Now let's go ahead and create one from Excel. So let's go back over here to lists. We're going to say new list, and we're going to say from Excel and from CSV. CSV could also be an Excel file, by the way, but CSV may be export from an application, for example, that only does it in CSV format. But the import, the way that it works, is exactly the same. But Excel has a little nuance that we're going to explain. So here we're going to upload the file. And that's pretty easy, right? But what we want to do is make sure that we upload the file. Now I'm just going to take a stab at this. Let's just say we do this one, PT School Career Fairs. I don't even know what that is. Let's just hit open. Okay, now it didn't do it. Okay, it did do it. Good. So this is the potential error, right? You don't have any tables in this file. Let's look at this inside the document. So here I want to import this. It's important to note here on this screen, I'm only importing the data, not these graphics, okay? And then we're going to hit upload. And now we chose in this example right here, but look at this potential error. If you do not format the spreadsheet as a table, you will get an error message. So let's go down to Appendix A here in the document, and let's see what it's talking about. So when we have a spreadsheet that we're using within our environment, we have to make sure, whoops, that's option B still. All right, here, come on. All right, there we go, Appendix A. So Appendix A means that we need to basically format this spreadsheet that we decided to use. So we're going to go back and we're going to see what that is again. So if we were to open up that PT School Career Fields, I don't even know what that file is. So if we were to open up that file, let's go to downloads here. And let me go ahead and find that. Give me just a second here. PT. Okay, career fields. All right, let's see what we got here. All right. So, you know what? Just in the interest of time, let's just do this one off of the document. So here we import, because it takes a few more minutes. So here we have the Excel spreadsheet. We opened it up inside of Excel. Notice here that we want to just capture this area. So we're going to start here in cell number A1. We're going to hold down our mouse, and then we're going to drag across the fields. Okay, and that is going to turn it gray. Notice this little box down here? That's what we need to do. That's first step. Then the second step is in the upper part right here, right, of your spreadsheet, you're going to click on Format as a Table and just format that data as a table. When that happens, it's going to come up and say, well, where is the data for your table? And this is the selected range. That's this range right here that we selected is represented in this box. And it's just a confirmation. Notice it's from A1 to K15. A1, here's 15, K15. So A1 to K15. Okay. And we're going to just hit OK. And then all of a sudden it's going to create it. And we know that it's a list because it'll have these little drop downs on it, right? You'll see the drop downs integrated into it so that you can select and do different things within your spreadsheet. Okay. So let's go back here to upload a file. So that's converted. This one's already a table. So we're just going to use it in our example. And we're going to just select it. Now, if you have multiple tables in the spreadsheet, they'll show up here, but here's the key takeaway on this screen. Notice here that we have a number per night, and notice that they're numeric values. Well, what happens if that's currency? Well, when we import it into the list, whatever we select here is going to show up in the list, right? And then we have to go down through each one of the fields. Often I find problems when I'm importing like date fields. It doesn't want to convert it to what I need it to be. Okay, so whatever you need to do, make the adjustments here, click next, and then it will convert it to a table. Now that one happens to already be a table, so we're going to go back to our instructions because we don't need to convert that. All right, so good. So let's go here. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. And there we go. So we're going to create it, and then we're going to select where we want to put it, and then we just hit create. And then all of a sudden, it will come up again the same way we did on the last creation. So that's really creating everything new within your list. Let's include managing the list in just briefly inside this video as well. So once I get the lists up and running, how do I manage them? Well, if I'm in somewhere, it doesn't matter, I'm in maybe another list, I can always click here, Microsoft List, and it'll return me back to this screen. So that's helpful. And then let's say I want to find a list that I created. Let's just say AB. I don't think there's anything in this list. There isn't. So I'm going to go to Microsoft Lists again. But here I could say Airbnb, for example, and there is some data in there. I click back there. And let's just go back to A, B, and C real quick. Okay, so there's no columns at all here. All right. So how do we add information or add columns to this list? Well, we can do it one of two ways. One, we could just hit add column, and then we could do it and follow the prompts. This is fine, except when your lists get big, it's kind of hard to navigate. We can also go up to the gear there and hit list settings. When we hit list settings, notice here that we have some information. One, over here are different lists. Here we could delete the list or adjust the permission for the list. You can also adjust the permission right here under your membership and sharing as well. But that's all good. So here we're going to go ahead and go back to that list settings. And there we go. Now we're going to add some columns. So we can add a column here. We can just name the column and select which field type that we want. Now, I go into more details inside of the document. So either pause the screen and read it or download the book, one or the other. So we're here, list settings, but I give some cautions along the way about complex fields. So pause the video if you want to just stop it and read through this content. But when you create a column, you need to make sure that you know what that column's going to be used for and what type of applications are going to use that column. So for example, a single information here, let me see if I give an example in here. Yes, I do right here. So right here. So for example, if I want to collect a numeric value, and if I want to do math on that numeric value, then I would probably enter it as a number so that I could add those numbers together. Now, if I'm just creating a numeric value just as information, or maybe as a switch, right? 1 equals this, 2 equals this, 3 equals this, then I will probably create a text field to capture that information. And the reason is just displayed here in a very simple manner. If I use a number field and I want to get to that information within Power Apps, for example, and Power Automate and Power BI also have different rules, I'm going to have to put in Power Apps, I'm going to have to put a value and then put that field in parentheses because it's not a text field, it's a value field or a number field. And if I want to just access a text field, then I use this code here just to access a text value on a label. This becomes it's not difficult, but you're going to have to be aware in all of the PowerSuite applications what value and what parameters you need to access that data. Now, also within Power Apps, as an example, and Power BI, and actually all of them, there are ways to convert this data, for example, from a numeric value into a text value so that then you can use the information more easily, or it becomes more available to you in like Power Automate and Power BI. You just need to be aware. If you don't need the value of a complex field, a simple text field is probably going to do the job for you right here, this single line of text. It's probably going to satisfy a lot of things that you do. Now, I do use date fields, and I do use calculated fields, and I use some of the fields here, but I am aware of what I'm using that data for in the future, and I make adjustments. Another trick that you can do, which I've done in the past, is, for example, and there's no data in here, let's say I had a field here, a date field, or let's say I had a text field, and I really need to do a calculation, and I need a numeric field. Well, I can create a column here, that text field, with that numeric value, and I'd create a new column over here as a number field, and just do internal to the list to have it say, okay, anytime data is updated here, update it automatically here, and it updates it in a numeric field. So I can, and then hide that field. So I can have multiple columns within my list doing the same thing, but presenting data in different formats so that when I integrate that into different apps within the PowerSuite, it recognizes the data differently. I know that's a lot, and I apologize for going into so much detail about it, but that is a real gotcha when you're working with PowerSuite and SharePoint lists. Now here, just to end this video because it's gone on way too long, you can also create a list using SharePoint. I'm not going to show you the actual, I'm just going to walk through the screenshots. Basically, you go up and select SharePoint, and then you're going to see all of your sites. Okay, and then you can select one of the sites to place the list in. Here in this example, I put it in the personal group. I just hit new and I hit list, and then I follow the same instructions and options as I had before. I can either create a blank or pull it from an existing or pull it from Excel. It doesn't matter. It all works the same, and the instructions are exactly the same in order to do that. So this has been a long video. Hopefully it has been helpful for you on how to create and manage SharePoint lists and exploring those integration hints for Power Apps and Power Automate. Again, you can purchase the book on this topic here. Hopefully this has been helpful.